please welcome to the stage our MC for the evening, Art Holliday.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the International Photography Hall of Fame induction ceremony presented by Thompson Street Capital Partners. My name is Art Holliday, KSTK, 5 on your side, and I'm thrilled to be your host this evening. After 2 years of a virtual event, we're live and in person in St. Louis. Yeah. We're out of practice, but we'll get the hang of it. I'd like to introduce the co-chairs of this evening's event, Bill Donius and Jay Perez. We thank you for your, give it up. We thank you for your leadership and financial commitment to IPHF this evening. Tonight's celebration is made possible by the generosity of our title sponsor, Thompson Street Capital Partners, our presenting sponsor, Emerson, our event sponsors this evening, Bill Donius and Jay Perez, and many additional companies and individuals that you can find in your program tonight. We greatly appreciate their support, and to all of you joining us here tonight this evening, we thank you for being here. We look forward to celebrating this incredible inductee class with you all. At the end of the evening, legendary auctioneer Adam Jokish will join us for a traditional fund-a-need and auction of stunning photographs from our Hall of Fame honorees to support the mission of the Hall of Fame, to educate, collect, exhibit, and preserve images, and to honor significant contributors to the art and science of photographic imaging. Thank you again for your generosity. The International Photography Hall of Fame honors those who have made contributions to the field of photography. That's one of the central charges of our mission since 1965, a charge we take very seriously, especially since we're the only International Photography Hall of Fame in the world. Yeah. The International Photography Hall of Fame includes the best of the best. There are a total of 115 inductees to the Hall of Fame, soon to be 121. These include the most talented, most visionary, and most creative and innovative photographers, inventors, and organizations. The unenviable task of choosing who is worthy of being a Hall of Famer is assigned to a committee of the Board of Directors. Congratulations to the committee and its chair, Bob Bishop, for submitting another stellar class of inductees. By the way, as you'll soon see, each Hall of Fame inductee is awarded a beautiful and unique medallion designed and created by St. Louis's Adam Foster Fine Jewelry. The solid bronze camera lens is a work of art in its own right. And now, we proudly recognize the 2022 inductees and awardees. The first honoree to the 2022 class of award winners is Kyle Huber, who's being recognized with the 2022 Visionary Award. Kyle Huber is a visual artist and obsessive creator living in Los Angeles. With a BFA in graphic design from the Kansas City Art Institute, he combined his passion for art with his love for the outdoors to create a successful career as a full-time travel photographer and advertiser. Huber is one of the original Sony Alpha Collective members and has created campaigns for brands like DJI, Netflix, Adobe, Lego, Hyundai, T-Mobile, HP, Target, Uber, United Airlines, and dozens more. Here to tell you more about Kyle is 2022 induction event co-chair, Bill Donius. Bill?
Thanks, Art. Appreciate it. It's the first time I've ever arrived early to anything. So Kyle is a young visionary who has utilized his creativity and attention to detail to compose colorful, clever, and awe-inspiring photos. Kyle began his career as a graphic artist, and then after a move to Los Angeles, California, he quickly developed a full-time career in photography. His creative and unique compositions have found mass appeal and have led to multiple levels of successful ad campaigns with the Fortune 500 companies mentioned. In addition to his photography, Kyle has amassed a portfolio of exciting and thought-provoking videographic work. to recognize his impactful work thus far and his work to come, we honor Kyle this evening with the 2022 Visionary Award. And I'm going to go off script here because I also learned something about Kyle from his mother tonight, who's here. She said he never missed a day of school from kindergarten through high school. So how about that? And also, as we were exchanging conversations before this introduction tonight, he shared with me that he gave his commencement speech from Fort Zumwalt High School right here in St. Louis area in 2006. So he had to audition for that and gave an amazing commencement address. So it was clear he had a real successful life that was to come, and I hope you get to meet him tonight. Let's bring him out, Kyle.
Wow, thank you, Bill, and a massive thank you to the Photography Hall of Fame for this incredible honor. I'm beyond flattered to be here, especially amongst such notable talent. I feel blessed, especially in the presence of this year's inductees whose work I admire. It's been a while since I did public speaking like this, and tonight I can't help but think back to when I spoke at my high school graduation just a few miles from here. Although I've grown a lot since then, maybe not in height, but I find the irony of that speech at age 18 to be very fitting here. As an artist, I've always viewed my life as an empty canvas, waiting for me to paint my future upon it in any way I choose. I went on to address my fellow classmates as a group of artists waiting to exhibit their work to the world. See, the beauty of that little analogy lies in the idea that we've all been given the right to choose our own destinies, essentially to paint whatever we want on our canvases of life. My journey to this exact moment began before I can even remember. My obsessive passion for creating was clear from the start, though. I was drawn to the arts, and I was curious to try it all. I wanted to play with origami, to become a magician, a clown, an animator, a painter, and eventually a graphic designer. It was at the Kansas City Art Institute where I learned the importance of visual communication, concept, composition, and color. But it is this iPhone in my pocket that I credit for allowing me to discover my passion for photography. It's this camera that ignited the flame that changed my life for the better. Not to mention my new addiction with social media, travel, and exploring California's great outdoors. Experimenting with perspective, I began photographing everything that caught my eye. As new technology emerged, so did my interest in trying different equipment. After years of shooting with the same iPhone, I upgraded finally to a full-frame mirrorless camera in 2016. I also began flying drones around that time, which opened my eyes to a whole new way of getting creative. I stand here today before you feeling grateful for the path that I was able to find as a visual artist. I'm excited to see where creativity and technology will take us in the years to come. As Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "Hitch your wagon to a star," and I hope you fill your life's canvas with bold swirls of color. Thank you so much.
The Association of International Photography Art Dealers was founded in 1979. With members across North and South America, Europe, Asia, and Australia, the association has become the unifying force in the field of fine art photography. APAD is dedicated to setting and maintaining the standard in the business of exhibiting, buying, and selling fine art photography. Here to introduce APAD's Michael Lee is Mark Katzman, photographer, collector, and creator of the internationally recognized website photogravure.com.
Hi. The IPHF Leadership Award honors individuals and organizations that have made significant contributions to the field of photography by nurturing the work of photographers worldwide. This year's recipient is no exception. While APAD is an acronym that has become associated with an annual photography show in New York, the Association of International Photography Art Dealers is much more. Over its 43-year history, APAD has become a unifying force in the field of photography. Acting as the collective voice of art photography dealers, APAD encourages public support, appreciation of the art, and the photograph. By promoting communication with the international photographic community, APAD protects the rights of photographers, collectors, and dealers, thereby enhancing confidence in a responsible photography trade. The annual photography show presented by APAD is one of the world's longest-running and most prestigious international photography fairs, featuring work across the spectrum from cutting-edge contemporary to modern to 19th century images. It brings together over 50 galleries from countries around the world. Michael Lee currently serves as APAD's president, and rightfully so. Michael is the director of Lee Gallery, one of the most highly respected galleries in the United States. Mac Lee, Michael's father, founded the gallery in 1981, which originally specialized in pictorialism. The artists at Lee Gallery currently represent include some names you may know: Robert Adams, Alfred Stieglitz, Edward Weston, Dorothea Lange, to name a few. After 16 years' experience in the field, Michael took over leadership of the gallery in 2019. Under Michael's direction, the gallery continues to deal in traditional blue-chip work with a broad historical perspective. Michael is also bringing his fresh eye by championing the contemporary work of photographer turned street artist Michael Yang. Michael lives in Boston with his wife and 2 children. So please give a warm welcome to this year's IPHF Leadership Award winner, APAD, and its representative, Michael Lee.
Thank you to the International Photography Hall of Fame for this great honor. And thank you, Mark, for your flattering introduction and longtime support of APAD. It's my pleasure and privilege to accept this award on behalf of the Association of International Photography Art Dealers. APAD was founded in 1979 by a small group of dealers with the mission of supporting the market for fine art photography. Their goal was to educate collectors and to share their passion and knowledge. Our storied history began with a fair at the Roosevelt Hotel in New York City in the spring of 1980. The organization and its fair have grown and evolved as it moved between different iterations at hotels, the Park Avenue Armory, and Pier 94. This last spring, APAD showed in Manhattan in a joyous homecoming for a community separated and challenged for 3 years by the pandemic. APAD's role within the fine art community has always been one of support, collegiality, and promotion of our galleries and the artists they represent. To see our efforts recognized is an honor this organization and its members deserve. In that vein, I would like to thank our 90 members and the committed and dedicated board of directors. I should acknowledge our recent and former presidents, Robert Klein, Stephen Bulger, and Kathy Edelman. In particular, I'd like to thank my mentor and predecessor, Richard Moore, a selfless leader and fierce supporter of the well-being of his colleagues. I strive to emulate him every day as APAD continues to evolve its platform in support for the fine art photography community. Thank you again to the International Photography Hall of Fame for this honor. It's a pleasure to be here, especially meeting Dwayne Michaels. Thank you.
So if they leave an award behind, does that mean I get to keep it? We are pleased to welcome Edward Bertinsky into the 2022 International Photography Hall of Fame induction class. Edward Bertinsky's photographic depictions of global industrial landscapes represent over 40 years of his dedication to bearing witness to the impact of humans on the planet. His imagery explores the collective impact we as a species are having on the surface of the planet, an inspection of the human systems we've imposed onto natural landscapes. Introducing Edward Bertinsky is former IPHF Board Chair Dick Miles. Dick?
Edward Bertinsky was born of Ukrainian heritage in St. Catharines, Ontario. Bertinsky received his degree in photography and media studies from Ryerson University in 1982. And in 1985, he founded Toronto Image Works, a darkroom rental facility, custom photo laboratory, digital imaging, and new media computer training center catering to all levels of Toronto's art community. Today, we welcome Edward Bertinsky into the International Photography Hall of Fame for his moving depictions of human-altered landscapes to bring awareness to the impact we have on our home, planet Earth. Please welcome 2022 inductee to the Hall of Fame, Edward Bertinsky.
I'm very honored to be inducted today into the Hall of Fame. A lot of the names in the 115 are the ones I studied at school when I was at Ryerson, and it's such an honor to be amongst those names. For over 40 years, I've examined the many ways in which human activity influences the Earth and its systems. My prime directive has always been to find compelling subjects, capture their intrinsic dynamism, and offer an aesthetic approach to each image, inviting the viewer to move in close, spend time, and to engage with the subject. My intention is for the viewer to begin understanding the enormous scale of our impacts upon the planet and form their own intimate awareness of the long-term consequences that we as a species are having on our planet. At the same time, I do not affix meaning to these images, as I want them to float somewhere between the world of documentary photography and fine art, with the eye toward painting. I want the viewer to ascribe their meaning to them. My artistic practice has afforded me the privilege of seeing the world, learning about and understanding the problems we are facing, and then using my camera to bear witness to these realizations. I often refer to the scenes of resource extraction, industrial landscapes that I photographed as showing us the extent of our business as usual behaviors. I show the processes by which contemporary civilization uses the earth to meet humankind's ever-evolving needs. My career is a calling that I'm infinitely grateful for, a career that has revealed the perspective of this planet we call home, which very few individuals have access to. My work is to share that knowledge. The ongoing hope is that these images I have made and continue to put out into the world will help bring about an ever-broadening awareness and be an inflection point to ignite the important conversations about the future of our planet and our collective role in restraining the worst of our behavior towards biodiversity and atmospheric loading of greenhouse gases. By looking at the largest industrial incursions into the natural world to harvest the organic and inorganic materials we need for the human enterprise to survive, there exists an undercurrent of deep concern for the welfare of all future generations. But more than making images that reflect our time, I also strive to make images that can withstand the test of time. As I build a companion of activities that we've done as humans that are altering the natural evolution of life on the planet. In geological terms, we live on a young planet with hundreds of millions of years of potential habitation that falls within the scope of the human enterprise to survive, if only we can pay attention and work together to nurture common sense of global stewardship and sustainable progress. We know all the signs that are presenting themselves daily, and they are real and not imagined, or simply natural planetary cycles. Look at the recent hurricanes. We as humans are now managers of the planet and are responsible for changing the conditions to either ensure our survival or face the consequences of inaction. To now be recognized for this work and to have my name reside along with so many other great artists in the International Photography Hall of Fame is another incredible privilege which I'm equally grateful for. Over the course of my career, I have not only witnessed the world change, but the nature and impact of the photographic medium as well, along with the amazing twists and turns the evolution of technology has brought us. I'm also glad that this art form continues to endure and expand. Photography embodies truth in a way that transcends language, culture, borders, and time. The photographer's commitment is about capturing light, ideas coupled with a persistence of will, a conquering of a darkness, revealing places that many do not get to witness, yet partake on a daily basis. It is a calling that has brought me here today, and along with my fellow inductees, a legacy that will remain in our stead long after we're gone, thanks to organizations like this. So thank you very much.
Photographer and author Chester Higgins Jr. gained inspiration for a career in photography in the late 1960s during his time at Tuskegee University. His mentor, P.H. Polk's photography, combined with acquiring his first camera just in time to bear witness to student unrest on the Tuskegee campus, provided the budding photographer with a strong motivation to document the African American experience in the United States. Higgins would compile the work Student Unrest at Tuskegee Institute in 1968 about the events that he saw take place on campus, and go on to work for periodicals such as the New York Times, Life, Time, Newsweek, Fortune, Ebony, Essence, and Black Enterprise magazines. Introducing Chester Higgins is President and CEO of the Urban League of Metropolitan St. Louis, Michael McMillan. Michael?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to be here tonight. I would like to, if I could, just have a moment away from the script and just ask Patty to please stand. Patty, we love and appreciate all of the work that you do as the president of this organization. Patty is the driving force behind making sure that this Photography Hall of Fame continues to be a world-class institution here in St. Louis. And we want to recognize you and thank you for everything that you do.
And I'm going to say that our Urban League in St. Louis, Missouri is #1.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Patty. It is my honor to introduce Chester Higgins. He grew up in New Brookton, Alabama. At the age of 9, he experienced a life-altering dream. In his vision, a black man dressed in ancient clothing appeared before him, calm and still. The mysterious man raised his hands and approached him, saying, "I come for you." Higgins was shaken by the experience, but his grandfather, a Baptist minister, interpreted the appearance of the apparition as a call to faith, and Chester was soon ordained as a youth minister. By the time he left for the Tuskegee Institute, he left his religious calling behind. Higgins' foray into photography came through his work at the student newspaper, where he first saw the photography of P.H. Polk, a man who would become his mentor. Polk's images powerfully impacted the viewer because of the way that they showed the dignity of African American life in the rural South during the 1930s. With this, Higgins found a new calling in photography, developing a perspective tempered in the civil rights movement. He turned his camera to not only document his subjects, but elevate them with a profound understanding and empathy. Higgins began his career in photojournalism at a time when there were very few black photographers working in the mainstream media. He took it as his mission to share the history and traditions of the people he grew up with, people who were largely invisible in popular media at the time or woefully misrepresented and maligned. He sought to showcase the decency, dignity, and virtuous character of black people. His work ultimately helped propel more complex and nuanced representations of black life in America. And each and every year, he and his wife return to Africa, where they sponsor countless children to go to school to help them advance their lives. Please help me welcome 2022 inductee to the Hall of Fame, Chester Higgins.
evening, everyone. This must be St. Louis. It feels so good. It is indeed the honor of my life to receive the International Photography Hall of Fame Award. My life mission has been about confirming the full agency of Black life. With the camera, my journey has been one of discovery and appreciation of humanity. My aim has always been to create compelling photographs that emotionally embrace my subjects. With light as my mistress, my eye has mined the diversity and worthiness of life around me, forming a testament of my time. It has been a blessing to be a witness to reality, and I pay homage to all my subjects and to the people who find my vision of the world stimulating. I stand in the grace of many mentors, cheerleaders, and voices of criticism. There are many influential people who have been central to my career that this spirit has brought into my path. In closing, I'm reminded of advice given to me at 19 by my great uncle March 4th McGowan, who lived to die at 108. When I was at a crossroads, Chester, it is important that you make a statement on life, or you could very well die undeclared. Thank you very much.
Our next inductee into the 2022 Hall of Fame class is Graciela Iturbide. Iturbide discovered her interest in photography during her time at university, where she studied under world-renowned Mexican photographer Manuel Alvarez Bravo. Her photography is an extension of her curiosity, and some of her most well-known work has focused on Mexican identity, sexuality, festivals, rituals, daily life, death, and the role of women. Here to introduce Graciela Iturbide is president of the Professional Photographers of America and master photographer Jeff Dachowski. Jeff?
Good evening. Graciela Iturbide was born in Mexico City. She studied at the University Center for Cinematographic Studies of the Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Mexico, and since then, she has photographed what surprises her, using the camera as a pretext to discover the world. From 1971 to date, her work has been exhibited in more than 90 solo shows and numerous group exhibitions in museums, galleries, and institutions specializing in modern and contemporary photography in America, Europe, and Asia. Among the awards, scholarships, and commissions with which her work has been recognized are the W. Eugene Smith Prize, the Grand Prize of the Month of Photography in Paris, the Grand Prize of Aikido, Japan, and the Prize of the City of Arles, France. Welcome, Graciela, to the 2022 International Photography Hall of Fame class.
Hello, good night. Hola.
Hola.
In Spanish because my English is very bad. Es para mí un honor recibir la invitación de pertenecer al International Photographic Hall of the Fame. Para mí, la cámara siempre ha sido un pretexto para conocer el mundo y su cultura. Thank you very much.
It's an honor to be here tonight at the International Photography Hall of Fame. And through my camera, I had the opportunity to get to know the world and its different cultures. Thank you so much.
Helen Levitt was born in New York City in 1913. She began photographing street scenes of her hometown in the late 1930s. Levitt's photographs captured the life of the urban setting, and especially of the children playing in the streets. In 1940, Levitt's photographs were part of the inaugural exhibition of the Department of Photography at the Museum of Modern Art in New York. 3 years later, the museum also mounted her first solo exhibition titled Photographs of Children. During her artistic career, Levitt also paid great attention to the medium of film, working as an editor and director in the 1950s after she met surrealist filmmaker and painter Luis Buñuel. Levitt passed away in 2009 in her hometown of New York City. Accepting the IPHF Hall of Fame Induction Award on her behalf is her niece, Sarah Levitt. Here to introduce Sarah is Eric Rothenbuehler, Dean of the School of Communications at Webster University, to tell us more about Helen Levitt. Eric?
Good evening. I'm really happy to be here and thrilled to have a chance to work with our friends at the International Photography Hall of Fame and to introduce a photographer I have admired so much for so many years. So it's an honor to introduce Sarah Levitt, who will be accepting the award on behalf of her great aunt, Helen Levitt. Helen Levitt began photographing street scenes in her native city of New York in the 1930s. Her photographs capture the vibrant life of the urban setting, and especially the children playing in the streets. Levitt took her camera to the city's poorer neighborhoods, like Spanish Harlem and the Lower East Side, where people treated their streets as their living rooms. And there she captured an unerring sense of empathy for the mystery and wry humor of everyday life. Earlier in her career, Levitt was introduced to the work of Henri Cartier-Bresson and Walker Evans, who both became friends and mentors. Subsequently, her work shifted from early journalistic depictions of poverty and suffering to instead show these working-class communities from the perspective of children through their games, chalk graffiti, and play in public spaces. Her work offered a window into vibrant, living communities that even at that time were becoming increasingly marginalized, threatened with redevelopment projects, noise ordinances, and other legislation designed to keep children and poorer residents off city streets and out of sight. I'm happy to introduce Sarah.
Thank you, everyone. It is a great honor to accept this award on behalf of my great aunt, Helen Levitt. Helen Levitt was referred to as the most celebrated and least known photographer of her time. I like to think that's because she was a woman of few words. Helen didn't enjoy speaking about her work. If it was easy to talk about, I'd be a writer, she once said in an interview. Her close friend and writer, James A.G., did capture the words that resonate most loudly to myself and countless others who explore her photographs. In his foreword to Helen's book, A Way of Seeing, A.G. likened her to a surrealist. The surrealism is that of the ordinary metropolitan soil, which breeds these remarkable juxtapositions and moments, and that what we call fantasy is instead reality in its unmasked vigor and grace. To fully enjoy or even comprehend Helen's work means taking pause to notice, to let your mind wander through the narrative of an unspoken moment, to see the wildness, innocence, and beauty of what becomes our natural history. otherwise missed in a passing glance. I would like to humbly thank all of those who, through hard work and with deep passion, made this extraordinary moment real. Most of all, the late Marvin Hoshino, Thomas Zander and his amazing colleagues at Gallery Thomas Zander, all of those at Film Documents, Larry Miller, Linda Sauen, Jeff Rosenheim, Vincent Colabella, and of course the International Photography Hall of Fame, and the dozens of others I have yet to know who were so important to Helen and most definitely deserve to share in this honor. I'd like to conclude by taking a moment to appreciate everyone in this room, their hard work, passion, and all of the people that helped along the way. Thank you.
Danny Lyon is a photojournalist, writer, and filmmaker. Lyon was born in Brooklyn, New York, March 16, 1942. He attended New York City public schools and in 1959 bought his first camera, an Exa SLR, in Munich, Germany during a summer trip. Later, he entered the University of Chicago, where he majored in philosophy and ancient history. In 1963, he became the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee's first photographer. He joined the Chicago Outlaws in 1966 and had his first one-man show that same year at the Art Institute of Chicago. Lyon has published many books, including The Bike Riders, The Destruction of Lower Manhattan, and Conversations with the Dead. Most recently, in 2020, Karma published a complete collection of his essays, American Blood. Introducing 2022 inductee Danny Lyon is Julian Cox. Julian?
Hi, I'm Julian Cox, Deputy Director and Chief Curator of the Art Gallery of Ontario in Toronto, Canada. And it's a great pleasure to introduce Danny Lyon as a recipient for this year's International Photography Hall of Fame Award. I've had the pleasure and honor of knowing Danny for almost 20 years. We've worked together on his 2016 retrospective that was presented at the Whitney Museum of American Art in New York and at the Fine Arts Museums of San Francisco, and that also traveled to venues in Europe. And we worked together on that project for about 6 years. And during that time, we came to be good friends, and I came to a deep understanding of the breadth of Danny's contribution and impact on the history of photography. And so it's with great pleasure that I have the honor of introducing him today. I would say that what's so important about Danny is that he has spent really a lifetime creating work and works of art that directly come from reality. And with his camera, he's bestowed a kind of immortality on everyday and anonymous people. And he's done this from the very beginning. So for 6 decades, he's engaged with some of the most important issues in our culture, in our society: civil rights, biker culture, the prison system, immigration, the financial collapse in Occupy, climate crisis, and gun control. These are all subjects that Danny, in one way or another, has tackled using the still camera, the moving camera, moving image camera, the notebook, the pen, and the typewriter. And that's what's so wonderful about Danny's work, that it's not just the medium of photography, it's writing and it's sort of filmmaking all woven together in a very powerful, wholesome way. I think another element of Danny's contribution as an artist that I so appreciate is the sense of adventure and self-belief that sort of ripples through everything that he does, and also an incredible sense of humor and wit, a playfulness that is sort of woven through that grit and commitment that sort of touches everything that he has ever really done. I've learned a lot about American history and culture through the many hours of conversation that we had together, but also, most importantly, looking at the incredible photographs that he made and the many beautiful books that he's produced over the years. So his achievement and accomplishment is really, really significant, and he's very richly deserving of this award. Thank you very much for hosting me. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person, but I'm really delighted to have said these few words on behalf of Danny. Thank you.
Please help me welcome 2022 inductee, Danny Lyon. Danny?
Okay, here we go. You all healthy, right, down there? It's not funny, you know. Okay, I got to see everything. This hat is good for shading from this thing. Okay, I have to thank everyone. I don't like, I wrote something, but the journey, my life's been a journey. It began 60 years ago. Is that all right, this distance? Yeah? Okay. Here in East St. Louis, I was a student at the University of Chicago, and I hitchhiked. I went to Route 66 because of Jack Kerouac, which runs through Chicago, and I ended up I was trying to get to Cairo, Illinois, but I got to East St. Louis, and I gave up and got on a bus. And I went to Cairo, Illinois, because the civil rights movement had started there, because Cairo, a lot like St. Louis, was the South, and it was completely segregated, even though it was in Illinois. And in the speech I wrote, you know, of all the decisions I've had to make in my life, that was probably the most consequential, certainly one of the best ones I ever made. So I got off the bus at night, and a big black guy was standing there, and I was afraid of him because almost all white people are prejudiced. And behind him stepped out a white woman. And then I knew I was okay. They were both SNCC workers. They were both freedom riders. And they took me in. And in the morning, I met John Lewis. And I would know John till he died. He died pretty recently. I just talked to him on the phone. They said, you can't talk to John because he's on the phone with Nancy Pelosi. And then when she hangs up, she visited him actually in Atlanta, but then the President Obama was on the phone and I talked to John. So I would know him for 60 years. And from Cairo, they told me what to do. I ended up in Albany, Georgia, and I was in jail with Dr. King, who I could see through the bars because the jails in Georgia were segregated. By the next summer, I was living in Atlanta. So think of that. Here's what they call a New York Jew, a white boy from Alabama whose grand-uncles had fought for the Confederacy. He was very proud of this. He took me on a hill. We were smoking pot and said, this is where my great-uncles fought for the Confederacy. And the third roommate was John Lewis, and his great-grandfather had been a slave. And that's what the Civil Rights Movement was about. There was this amazing cross-pollination of these different people and different things, really spearheaded by young black people. So after I left SNCC, I came back to Chicago because I really wanted to photograph motorcycles, and I joined the Chicago Outlaws. By the way, The Bike Riders is being filmed as a film now in Cincinnati starring John Hardy. So Jeff Nichols bought the rights, and he's making a movie about it. You going to tell me what to say now? You know, someone should take a wire like in The Sopranos. You ever see how The Sopranos deal with people? I am doing it exactly. Oh, you want me to speed up? Okay. So back in Chicago, I had met Hugh Edwards. Hugh Edwards was from Paducah, Kentucky, and he walked on crutches. And he was a curator of photography. He showed my work when I was very young. He supported me. You can move it up there. Go ahead, go through a couple paragraphs. You don't want to hear, but this is about a lynching. Anyway, Edwards had a huge effect on me. He really supported me. And he was from the South too, from Paducah. Go ahead, keep going. I want to see what I got here. That's not it.
You got 30 seconds, baby.
Okay, 30 seconds, baby. You know, people who talk like that where I come from ended up having accidents. Did you see Casablanca where the Nazi is saying I was going to go into Brooklyn? And Humphrey Bogart said, you better not go into some of the neighborhoods I know in Brooklyn. I love you all. Thanks for everything. You're okay.
Our final inductee into the 2022 Hall of Fame class is photographer Sarah Moon. Ethereal and elegant, Sarah Moon's photographs are almost abstract in their painterly qualities. Texture, surface, seeing, believing, dreaming. It is difficult to summarize their content without pointing to the evident romantic and melancholic mood that emanates from the work. Moon, who came to prominence in the 1970s, breaks from the traditions of fashion photography, choosing instead to investigate a world of her own invention without compromise. Sarah Moon began her career as a fashion model in the 1960s. Since 1968, she has worked as a fashion photographer and filmmaker. Her photographic work has been published in Vogue, Elle, Harper's Bazaar, Marie Claire, Graphis, Life, and numerous other magazines. Here to introduce Sarah Moon is her dear friend and 2020 IPHF inductee, Dwayne Michaels. Dwayne?
Oh, here we go. Sarah Moon. Oh, that's what it says. Okay, now it says, ladies and gentlemen, queens and kings, may I bring your attention to the center ring. Behold, the grandest of all poets. Now, in photography, you've got reportage, you've got landscape, whatever, you know, but there's a category I call poets. Poets. There are photographic poets. There are people like Jerry Ulsman was a poet. There's no category for poets. And she's a real poet. She's not a phony poet. Phony poets are fakes. You heard it here first. Okay. Behold the grandest of all poets, the velvet mistress of myths and spells and lunabells, siren songs, Circe. This Circe mesmerizes and enchants. Ooh, this is why I insert this. Ooh, enchants. Ooh, that's it. More chant. Okay, and like Circe, she lures with her visions. She does. She's a magician. All right, here we go. Now we're getting serious. A true sister to the great Russian poet Anna Akhmatova. I can't say. Does anybody know who Anna Akhmatova is? Yes. Oh, you do? Yes. Give that lady a prize. Okay. Who also sang to the moon. Butterflies pose for her, holding still. An elephant sits for his portrait patiently. Grains of film become stardust. Moon processes sensation in 125th of eternity. Attendez, quick, pay attention. Listen to a romance, liquid faith, blah, 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 blah. I look at it, and Dwayne smiles and says, she's a genius. Goodbye. I got to go now.
I don't know what Dwayne said. But I thank you, Dwayne. I don't know where you are, but for your support. I thank him before anything, because it's been really a support, the fact that he's there. Anyway, I've written it down because it helps. And if it's too long, because you said 4 minutes, but maybe it's too long. Is it too long?
Keep going. Go.
Okay, so I'll try to go quick. Good evening. I feel honored, and I thank you, Hall of Fame, for inviting me. And even if I feel a bit clumsy and tangled up in a costume that's 10 times my size. But I'm present, but I'm divided in two. I mean, I'm me, Sarah Moon, the photographer, and here tonight to be the storyteller of my story. So I'll try to make the story short. So, once upon a time, a long time ago, these years when everything seemed possible, I was a model interested in photography. I began taking pictures of my friends, colleagues, and then I met Mary Knopka, who arrived from the Niagara Falls. She wanted to be a model. She needed a book to introduce herself in the fashion business, and I can say we made a book together. We were both beginners at that time. Her photos were noticed, and she became a top model. I was asked for a job, but I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready really 2 years later, but I replaced a friend photographer who had the flu for a little picture in a weekly newspaper. Then I added Moon to Sarah, which is a name my grandmother gave me. And believe it or not, I went on. There was different opportunities that made it possible. Corinne Staru was beginning at Cacharel. She asked me to do the invitation. Mary posed for me. The photo was printed. The ones of the collection followed. Magazines joined up. So did advertising for different trends. And very quickly the date got mixed up. Something had taken shape. And here I was, a woman fashion photographer. There weren't so many. It was the 70s. I needed to see what I saw when I was not asked. I realized then that it was both to approach and to escape reality that instinctively I looked through the lens of a camera. So my subject was all around, and I was alone, wandering wherever I was, watching for the unpredictable and hoping it would happen. It is another story, but I did go on with fashion, with my team, alone but together, and it's very different. All of us rowing in the same direction, creating the situation where the moment could happen. It was exactly like making a second of a film that would never exist. I always wanted to tell stories, and it was always just that second of something else. The commercials we did made that second become a minute. It was another experience, and probably my first steps into film. Memories of that time mingle with laughters and tears and fears. Then a date. In 1990, I did Mississippi 1. It was a long feature movie. It made a turning point. I became conscious that at the beginning of everything, it was my desire to tell stories, and the film was the medium where it could happen at its best. I could experience it endlessly, whether I did portraits or tales or just small personal pieces of 5 minutes, 3 minutes. I must say, this really reflected in my fashion photography. I left out the anecdote to privilege fashion for itself, for its own artifice, and especially for making the woman exist by dressing her. Of course, all of this is a summary. You said 4 minutes, but all along was the work. The endless, continuous quest, looking and searching, hoping, waiting or rushing, sur le qui-vive. There is no translation. You say on the run, but it's qui-vive is on living, sur le qui-vive. Anyway, believing or doubting all these hours just for 1 second when maybe the photo will happen. An angel passing by, I feel. I do work with hazard, you say, serendipity. That's the word I found. Yes, it does come without a control. And I hear Henri Cartier-Bresson saying, you don't take a photo, it's the photo that takes you. And even in fashion, when you set it all up, you're looking for that accident, for what you didn't expect. It seems all along I have been struggling with time for that 1 second. Even when I was 18 years old, I was writing on my diary this quote, "Time runs behind my back and screams, stop, thief." Today is another day. Now is another time. And it will make the story short when it decides. Today, I want to associate to this award the man I lived with for 48 years, Robert Delpire. He was the first one to help me, trying to believe in what I was doing.
Thank you and congratulations to the 2022 International Photography Hall of Fame inductees and awardees.